We're out in the gray skies of Venice, California in June, heading toward the middle of June. And here's Vinny Caggiano, and where are we at now?
Yeah, we're going to do Polythene Pam by John Lennon, and she came in through the bathroom window by Paul McCartney. And I just have to, like, excuse something here. I've lost the left channel in my speaker system, and a lot of these old recordings, sometimes they'll totally dedicate tracks just the left side.
Okay.
So there are these incredible dropouts that happen in these songs, so I'm sorry about that. If anybody wants to donate a speaker system to me, please feel free.
There we are.
Also, I just want to mention something before we go on about Abbey Road and the lyrics on Abbey Road. You'll find the most honest songs, like I Want You is a really raw, honest, emotional piece of music. Here Comes the Sun, I think is honest. I think it was a very happy, you know, just that feeling of when the sun shines. You know, it's really, you know, he's being literal in ways, George Harrison on that one. Something, which is just a lovely, lovely love song. There are a few songs on there that are truly honest, but then you go into stuff like, well, all the stuff we're doing, for example. What had happened, again, I mentioned this before, but Dylan influenced the Beatles in such a way that they realized, oh, I don't have to write a love song every time. I could write about anything. And at first it was great because you have kind of this encoded, not encoded, but, you know, poetic metaphors that could mean one of many things. Say in Norwegian Wood, which is a dead serious song. But how do you interpret, what is Norwegian Wood? What is this about, you know? And, you know, if you think about the lyrics, you could kind of piece something together. But by the time they got to Peppers and the whole psychedelic period, they went way over the top. You get like songs like I Am the Walrus, which really doesn't mean a thing. Nothing,
okay.
You know. So now, the point being, though, that this idea of encoding, I don't know if you remember an old song by Peter, Paul, and Mary called I Dig Rock and Roll Music.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's a cute little song. And there's one thing, like, you know, but I have to hide it between the lines or something like that, and they go, if you know what I mean, which was a tagline in a lot of 60s songs, if you know what I mean, wink, wink, we're talking about drugs or sex.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So, but what happened was they took this to such an extreme that it became like meaninglessness on top of meaninglessness. You can't decode the lyrics because they really don't frickin' mean anything.
Wow.
So she came in through the bathroom window. You know, the extreme of this is McCartney took it to a ridiculous extent when he left the Beatles. And on his first album, I forget the name of the song. His first album was very nice, musically, you know. I forget the name of the song, but he admitted in an interview that he had to fill out some form for some bureaucracy, and the whole song is based on this form. I mean, what poetry is there in that? I don't get that. Like, why would you, you know...
Well, it could be a social commentary.
Yeah, but, you know, McCartney was not much into social commentary. He kind of derided Lennon for being over the top with social commentary, at least at that time.
Well, it wasn't. It maybe didn't necessarily have to be political, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so, by the way, the coffee's almost brewing, so when we take our break, we'll fill you up there. All right, so we came out of Mean Mr. Mustard, right? And it's in the key of E. And, of course, Lennon probably tacked on this little chunk called Polythene Pam right after it because it's also an E, so it's fortuitous. He didn't have to work at modulating to a different key or anything like that. And this is a great example. I have a headache this morning, so I didn't quite analyze the chord structure, but I can fly with it. So Polythene Pam is very, very, like, the opening of it is very typical stuff. It's a Mixolydian mode. So the chords actually come from the key of A, but the root is the key of E.
Okay.
And not the key of E, but the root is E major. So it's like D, A, E. And very kind of lazy melodies, just following the chords. The notes in the chords. You just... Good looking. G. This is great. C, D, E, C, D, E, then back to the D8. And that's basically the whole song.
Okay.
D, A, E, and then when he comes like creates a little release. It goes to G, to B7, to C, D, E. All really nice moves, by the way. And notice all the major chords, right? We have D, A, E, G, C, D. All right, as like added chords. And we have our B7, which is natural to the key of E. It's the 5th chord of the key of E. So, let's take a look now. What was my... All right, we're going to go to the... Once again, all right? And I can't really hammer this down enough. Like, if you really, really look at songwriting, this parallel relative thing is very, very important to creating interesting chord structures. And last time we got together, I explained that basically what you're doing is taking the major chords of 2 keys and putting them together, but they're related through a mutual root. Okay, so let's look at this. We're not actually technically in the key of E here again. Like, we're taking chords from the key of A. Why? Because if we take the key of A and we look at the chords from the key of A, we have A, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, right? So now we have D, A, E. So we're making E the root, but the chords are from A. There's a 4 and a 5 from A, and this 5 is becoming 1 now.
Okay.
Right? It's 1 with the universe. So, all right. Now let's look at the transition to the G chord, where that's coming from, and the B7 chord, which is now saying E major.
Right.
You see the difference? Like, we were in Mixolydian, but now we're in E Ionian or E major with the B7 chord.
Okay.
You can do this. It's called mixing modes, and it's a great effect for getting new chords and interesting movements of chords. But let's talk about the relative parallel major switch again. Now, what we have to do in order to understand this is we have to change E major to E minor. All right? And then we find out what's the relative major key that E minor is from. All right? In other words, by saying relative minor, the relative minor is the 6th step of any key. All right? So we have E minor, and it's the 6th step if I go E, 6, 7, 1. Where that E minor is the relative minor of the key of G major. So if I take my 1, 4, 5 from G major, I have G, C, D, right? And that is just about going to cover all these wandering majors we're seeing. D is coming from there. We have D, A, E, D, A, E. G is the key that we're also borrowing chords from, because we had C, right? G to B7, which is the 5-7 chord bringing us home back to the E root. And then we have C, D, E. The C and D, G, A, B, C, D, the 4 and 5 from the key of G. Okay? And, you know, that's basically it about that one. You know, there's not much else to say. It's a little nugget. It's great. It's fabulous.
Is there anything resembling like a bridge or anything like this in it?
No, because again, it's an incomplete song, and that was the whole idea of the medley.
Okay.
You know, that they were incomplete. McCartney's additions to this, a lot of his additions to it are, yes, there are little pieces, but you could take a song like Coming Up Next, which is As She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. If he had developed it just a little bit more, it would have been a song standing on its own, you know.
Okay.
Lennon's pieces tend to be a little bit more concise, you know.
Oh, okay.
Like, you could tell McCartney was about 50 to 70% the way through the song. But when Abbey Road came along, it wasn't complete yet, so he just said, let's toss this in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are we at the 15-minute?
Oh, no, we're at 9 right
Okay,
now.
all right. So, wow, we may be able to go even further. Okay, so now, how we get into She Came In Through the Bathroom Window is, first of all, there's a little guitar solo, like, in other words, and then they do this thing again. And all that Harrison, I think it was Harrison stuff.
Okay.
All right, so we got the C root, and there's this little guitar solo going against this, and then they go. Key of A.
Okay.
All right. Now, how do they do that? Right. Really well done, actually. Always. Beatles. It's very clever because the E chord was our root, right? This is really cool. The E chord was our root, but he's using it as the 5 chord going to the key of A. The 5 chord of A. If we look at the key of A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get an E chord.
Okay.
That's sitting at the 5th step. All right. When it does that, it can either be major or dominant 7, either one.
Okay.
All right. So now, remember I gave you, like, I told you that Polythene Pam was E mixolydian, which is actually the key of A major. Right?
Okay.
So what they're doing there is they're taking the chords from A major, starting on the E and descending downward to get to A.
Okay.
All right. And again, E mixolydian and A are the same thing. All they had to do is strike a really strong root. They used power chords to do it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the first time you played it, it had more of a power chordy feel to it.
Right. Yeah. The second time I played it just now was an implication of the chords.
Okay.
You know, what they actually represent. Power chords are not complete chords, so you have to fill in is this major or minor. Well, when you have a movement like this, it's like whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. That's the formula. The whole step, half step formula is stating this is actually the key of A.
Okay.
So that's how we got there. Now we're in the key of A. All right. All right. So this is a bluesy kind of thing where you have. Silver spoon. Now she sucks her thumb and wonders by the banks of her own lagoon. So it's just A7 to D7. I played a D before, but again, majors can replace dominants, but it sounds better. Definitely bluesy, without question. The lyrics are ridiculous. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, but whatever. Now, interesting, again, this trick is pulled, and it's done in a more interesting way. Remember, the E was our root, but then it acted as our 5 chord going to A, right? Well, we're going to do the same thing, except now it's really kind of interesting. He used the same exact artifice, probably in the same key, as in Lady Madonna. Okay. So basically, you know, he's addicted by a silver spoon. Now she sucks her thumb by the banks of her own lagoon. Didn't anybody tell her? Didn't anybody see? Sundays on the phone to Monday, Tuesdays on the phone to me. Oh yeah. Alright. And he starts another verse, but he also ends the song on that A7 with a kind of hanging cadence there.
Oh, okay.
Alright. So what's going on? I thought about this morning before you were coming by. I thought, wow, this is actually very cool little technique he's using. We're in the key, like bluesy key of A, so it's like A7 root more than just A root, which is great because A7 can suddenly act as a secondary dominant for a completely different set of chords and a completely different set of key.
Okay.
A completely different key. So, remember I said that the 5-7 chord, all right, is always 5 steps away from where it's going. So if I took the D major chord and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps up from the D root, I get an A root. That's where the dominant 7 of D is. But the secondary dominant could go to a minor as well as a major, and that's what he's doing. He's going from A7 to D minor, the 5-7 in the key of D minor. But it's not really the key of D minor, all right? It's really the key of C. This is secondary dominant for the 2 chord of C, C to D minor, right? All right, so, and then he goes G7, C, a little movement in the bass, C, A7. And that secondary dominant now is acting as root again when he comes back to it.
Okay.
It's truly brilliant. I mean, and again, it's all intuitive. He didn't think, oh, a secondary dominant, you know, that's not going to happen.
By the way, we just hit 15.
Okay, good.